Hi everyone, in his video we're gonna talk about the new Murder Drones graphic novel. For those who may don't know, the Murder Drones graphic novel is made up of 6 issues that retell the story of the show. The first issue came out on September 25th, and the second just a few weeks ago. A lot of people have already talked about it. So today, I'm going to give you my opinion on this graphic novel. First of all, I love the graphic novel's art style. When they first announced the graphic novel, I wasn't expecting the drawings to be like this, but actually this style fits the overall ambiance of the show a lot. Even if with this style the characters sometimes make some weird face. But it's funny actually. The second thing I like in the graphic novel is the fact that they keep most of the dialogue the same as in the show. Even though I like the graphic novel, I have to admit it has many flaws. One of the main ones is the pacing. In the show, it's already pretty bad. The story moves too fast, making it difficult to follow. But in the graphic novel, it's even worse. They've literally crammed 2 20-minute episodes into a single 30-page issue. So to reduce the number of pages, they sometimes group several scenes into the same panel, resulting in some panels with way too much dialogue, making it hard to understand what is happening. Murder Drones is already a show that is hard to follow in the first place, but in the comic it's even worse, and unfortunately, someone who hasn't seen the show won't be able to understand what's happening in the comic because of this. The graphic novel also have some changes compared to the original show. Most of the changes are here to make the story move faster. That's why many scenes from the show have been cut. In the first issue, this didn't bother me too much because only a few scenes were missing, and those were relatively unimportant to the plot. Like the scene where En shoot Hart with his gun during the fight in the first episode. But in issue 2, they also removed important scenes. They literally removed the scene between En and V in the landing pod in episode 3, the one where we discover that V did care about En and knew more than she let on. The problems is that, since they delete some scenes, but they still keep the dialogue the same as the show, some of the dialogue makes actually no sense now. For example, in the comic, En said that V is hiding mystery stuff when she killed Doll, but it make no sense since the scene when we learned that V know more than we do is removed, so En isn't supposed to know that she's hiding stuff. So most of the changes in this graphic novel are here to reduce the number of page, but there are also some changes, one in particular, that is just pointless. I'm speaking about the scene in the pilot where En break into bunker and hide Uzi when Jay and V arrive, and then explain to Jay what Uzi told him when V is gone and turn side. Well, in the comic, En didn't hide Uzi before V and Jay arrived for some reason, and V was still here when En turned side and when Jay infected him. This is some small changes which are completely useless, as keeping the original scene wouldn't have lengthened the story. Adding just one panel for En to hide Uzi before V and Jay arrive, and another for V to leave before them, wouldn't have lengthened the comic. Moreover, not only is this change unnecessary, but it also creates some problems with the story. Why on earth would V and Jay have left Uzi alive? I mean, of course she had to stay alive, otherwise the story wouldn't exist, but do you really think V or Jay would have left a worker drone alive? And a worker drone who have a weapon capable of killing them? The fact that they left Uzi alive make no sense. The other problem with this scene change is that some say the writers also misinterpreted V's character. V was present when Jay infected En with the virus, because she didn't leave earlier as she did in the show. However, some claim that V would never have let Jay infect En in the show. They're complaining about the fact that V saw En being infected and just leave without even worrying about him. Personally, I disagree. First, I think it's simply a small detail the writer overlooked. Unfortunately, there are a lot of small details they didn't think of. Also, don't forget that V do care about En, but decided to not let it show in any way and to just ignore him to protect him, so of course she wouldn't save him or seemed worried when Jay infected him. Also don't forget that in episode 1, we're not supposed to know that V care about En. I think the problems is that people are too stuck on how the characters are after episode 8. In episode 8, V admits she cares about En, and her attitude toward him changes. However, the first issue of the graphic novel takes place during the first episode, where V doesn't show that she cares about En. Furthermore, when only the pilot episode of Murder Drones had been released, we also didn't know that V cared about En. I think the problem isn't that the writers are misrepresenting V, but that they're simplifying her character. V is a complex character. But in the graphic novel, with the limited number of pages, they have even less time than in the show to explore her character. Therefore, they omit important aspects, such as the scene where we learn that she cares about En and knows more than she lets on. Though I gotta admit one of the character they did mischaracterize is Lizzie. During the prom scene they literally replaced the line, "On second thought you're way hotter than doll. Run idiot." For, "On second thought, every drone for themselves." So they replaced for no reason a line where she actually saved V, for a line that make her looks like a selfish and coward person, throwing up the start of her real friendship with V at the same time. This was also a pointless change that brings mischaracterization of the characters. But despite everything, there are still some changes that I found good, like the fact that Anne have hard eyes during the whole fight with V, or the small detail of the solver symbol on Uzi's visor at the end of issue number 1. Or even the fact that Anne arrived at the bunker before Uzi. These are just details, but they're still positive points. Also, Oni Press made a post just before the release of the second issue, explaining that they had taken the criticism into account and decided to add more pages to each issue of the graphic novel to improve the pacing. They clarified that they had initially planned each issue to be around 20 to 30 pages because it's the classic comic book format in the United States, but realized that this wasn't enough to tell a story like Murder Drones. That's why they decided to add pages to address the critics' requests. So yes, the Murder Drones graphic novel is far from perfect, it has many flaws and feels like a poor adaptation of the original show. But actually, I quite like it. Many people complain and are disappointed because it's not what they expected, but I'm not that disappointed. With only 23 pages per issue and only 6 issues to adapt an 8-episode show, I knew the pacing would be worse than in the show. I expected that, which is why I'm not so disappointed. Also, let's not forget that Oni Press announced they would be adding pages to improve the pacing. I'm not saying the graphic novel is good, because it clearly isn't, but it's still nice to see our favorite characters again in a different format, especially since this may be the last Murder Drones content we will get before a very long time, since the show is over for almost 2 years now, and I'm really looking forward to reading the next issue as soon as it comes out.
And when the ice sets in, I'll need you.